Well, hello and welcome back, everybody, to the DanJohnUniversity.com podcast. I'm Dan John. This is episode 215. Every week I sit down and I answer your questions. Now remember, this podcast is question-driven, which I like. And if you have a question, send them to podcast@DanJohnUniversity.com. Every week I'll do my best to answer each and every one. Sometimes the questions are so specific that I just send an email back, or some of the questions just blend in with others and we kind of knit them together a little bit. But most of the time we answer them all. This week we have a lot of good questions, a lot of fun questions. Let's get started. Let's see how they go. First question is from Dean, and he says this: what are your thoughts on stomach vacuums? And he says, are you a fan of this old school exercise for aesthetic and performance reasons? Do you think this sort of breathing drill can improve Anaconda strength? And that's why I like this question, Dean. This exercise, the stomach vacuum, was a standard for bodybuilders for years. And it's one of those things, I don't know why they stopped doing it. If you read some of the old bodybuilding magazines, it was a standard idea. And I was taught to do it this way, and I don't remember who taught this to me. I don't think it was Dick Notmeyer, but it might have been one of the bodybuilders who trained. You put your hands on your knees. You can do this seated. You can do this standing, I guess. And you kind of turn your body into kind of a turtle position, the opposite of an Olympic lifter. And while you do this, then you try to drive your belly button into your spine. You suck your belly in. Now, this exercise has been around a long time. You'll see yoga practitioners doing it. Of course, there's always the caveat with yoga practitioners. What we consider yoga here in the United States and in the West, I'm pretty sure England has the same issues. People came over about 100 years ago and taught this thing called yoga. Here in the United States, it's not part of the faith tradition. And I've discussed this many times with people. I always feel a little uncomfortable when I talk about what I hear in yoga practices. They tend to take faith traditions and put them in a blender, and just spout out a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't really work in the traditions you're hearing. But it's a common exercise. When I was young, there was a guy in a TV show called Yoga for Life, and it was a standard practice he used every time. I'm pretty sure Vince Gironda recommends it in his book, The Wild Physique. What I wanted to tell you is an interesting thing. This is something most of you probably don't have. This is the Health Letter. And this is from 1974, Volume 3, Number 7. And it's about girth control, avoiding the big middle. And they talk about the wrong solution, and that's including wearing a girdle, which is something many people probably don't even know anymore, or putting on those big elastic bands. When I was young, they used to think these tight elastic bands around your waist would sweat the fat out. Now, oddly, if you know your biochemistry, your physiology, or basic biology, it's kind of possible to think it is. No, it's true. You breathe out fat. Of course, it's carbon dioxide and water vapor. The carbon atoms, fat is made of, just like most substances in your body, carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. When your body utilizes it, the waste products, I don't know what I'm talking about anymore, but basically you can't sweat out fat, but you can breathe out fat, technically. But these didn't work very well. But it's interesting because when they talk about what does work besides dietary controls, the very first one is what we would call, it's called the abdominal leaning, LEAN device, exercise, and you suck in your stomach. But Dean's question was interesting about Anaconda strength. So I think the suitcase carry is probably the world's best Anaconda strength builder. I would put right next to it the Bear Hug Carry, bears, I guess. But it's interesting when he talked about this, because that is an area in my training that I've just not utilized very much in the last while. And it's a great exercise. I worked with a woman years ago who did the stomach vacuum constantly. And you'd be talking to her standing and you'd hear these weird muffled breaths. Turned out that she had had some kind of surgery, and that is what the PT had told her to do, the physical therapist, as part of her recovery. Well, the side benefit she noticed is that she really had a strong abdominal wall. Now, did the surgery do it? Did her appropriate eating habits and sleeping habits do it? Or did the stomach vacuum exercise do it? Well, of course, it's a combination of all of that. But, I mean, if you're sitting in the car in, traffic, sitting there and practicing your stomach vacuum isn't a bad idea. Whether it, gets you ready for the Mr. Olympia crown, I don't know. But I think there's real value to it, especially like you said, this idea of anaconda strength. So thank you so much. Good question. Got a question from Greg. We have a couple of questions today that kind of relate around the same topic here. Greg says this: I recently read about an ancient Greek training method of Tetrades. He says it means quadrants. Tetra. I don't know if this is a popular idea, but the concept comes all the way back from Philostratus. And Philostratus told us that, and I made a note on this, a typical tetrad is the first day prepares the athlete, the second is an all-out trial, the third is relaxation, and the fourth is a medium hard workout. Now, Greg asks us some specifics about that, and he then tells us his equipment for a small home gym. Let's just say this. Okay, he has a really good small home gym. It really is not bad. He's got plenty of kettlebells. He's got the ab wheel. He's got yoga mats. He can do pull-ups at home. Great. I want to get to the question as fast as I can get there. What kind of things would you recommend on each day with a similar setup or with your own personal gym? So I don't know if it would even matter if it was a home gym or a commercial gym or even a playground and just using the kids' equipment to get in shape. The idea here is what I like. Now, one small thing before we get going, Greg. Most Americans, most people I work with can't slide into an 8-day work week. I like the idea, but we're going to adapt it just a little bit to work in the 7-day work week that most of us use. And we're going to take us back to the 1970s and my collegiate training template as best I can, okay? First, if you're training at home, I think there's real value in the idea here. Now, if you think about what Philostratus is telling us, he's telling us that we should have a light day, a heavy day, and a medium day. Now, if I go on my shelves here and pull out my books from the York Barbell Club and Strength and Health magazine up there, that was a template everybody used before the 1970s. You'd have a light day, a heavy day, and a medium day. Now, I structure that around with my athletes to be a medium day first in the week, a light day, and then a heavy day. Because most of my athletes, Friday's a good day to have a hard training session. So there you go. We just kind of told you what I want you to do with it. So my thought would be this. I like the idea that the first day prepares the athlete. And of course, that second day is going to be the all-out trial. So here's just a simple idea for you. Monday and Tuesday be practice days. You go into your home gym. The workouts can be very short, and you're going to go in and practice the movements. If you're an Olympic lifter, these would be light days. I'm thinking in the 60-70% range, maybe 60-65% range. With your kettlebells, you have a 16 and 24. This would be the 16 kettlebell day. This would be, you're going to practice the movements. I would say doing that 2 days back to back, because light workouts, practice sessions are the best way to train for most people. It's too bad, and this is just a small point, Most people get hung up on working out. And I get that. I'm going to work out my frustrations. I'm going to work out my fears. I'm going to work out the fact my boss is an idiot. I'm going to work out the fact that my kids drive me crazy. I'm going to work out the fact that I was so happy when I was 20 and now I'm so sad now. Okay, good. You work out, you go home, and you hug the kids, you hug the dog, and everyone's happy. Monday and Tuesday, be light practice days. Use the light bells. If you're going to do pull-ups, stay well. So if you're going to say like you can do 10 pull-ups, we're thinking 3 and 4 pull-ups, 2, 3, or 4 pull-ups. Couple rounds, feel good. Boom. Wednesday, that's your heavy day. Go after it. Go heavy, go hard. Push your limits either in volume. And most home trainers like to push a little harder on volume rather than intensity, load. We can even push it in density, same amount of work, less time. That leads us to Thursday, which is in my tradition, Tonic Thursday. Thursday is always the day to do original strength, go for a light walk, feel good, and smile a lot. And then fourth, the medium day, that would be your Friday workout. And the reason I'm making your Friday workout is he also mentioned that he liked to do bouldering or mountain biking. Most people, in my experience, tend to do mountain biking on weekends. Here in Utah, if you go for a hike on a Tuesday, it might just be you and the rattlesnakes. If you go on Saturday, there's traffic, man. There's people there. So maybe the weekends be the days you do the mountain biking or the bouldering or just going for a long walk. I would say one of the days be the easy day, the long walk, the fun mountain bike. The other day you can go for it a little bit, the bouldering or the hard mountain bike trail. I love this. It's been fun to read this. It is interesting how there's nothing new under the sun. Both questions here today. The stomach vacuum exercise. This is as old as the hills, somewhat. The idea, and of course we're back with the Greeks, 2 millennia ago, and yet there's still so much truth in these ideas, and there's a lot more right than wrong in both of these questions today. So I love the idea. Try my idea about those 2 practice sessions, Monday, Tuesday. Wednesday, you go for it. Thursday is tonic day, relax, stretch, original strength. Friday's your medium workout. Saturday and Sunday, have some fun. If you want to take them off, fine. If you want to go for something long, fine. Thanks. Really good question. Thank you. And it ties right into our next question. Joe asks, can you talk about what you think about rest recovery deload weeks during training? I'm a big fan. I found over the years that periodically my body gets run down and needs a lighter week to recover and rebuild. I feel in my body and in my spirit, he starts to dread his workouts, which is never a good sign. I take a week to do nothing or no workouts, just ride an Aerodyne, and I'm raring to go again. During that week, I also find that my results slingshot forward, lose weight, get stronger. Is that normal? Oddly, yes. Can you speak to what you do or recommend regarding deload recovery weeks? I was in a phone call years ago, 20 plus years ago, 25 almost now, with Dick Smith, one of the great coaches at York Barbell Club. And we were talking about Lee James, who sadly just died recently. He was the silver medalist at the Montreal Olympics in 1976 in the 90 kilo weightlifting class, and a real hero of mine. I never met him. And that is one of my, the bucket list things. Lee James was on my bucket list to meet him. Well, Dick told me about his training, and Dick was very insightful. And I used this as my template for a long time. So we would have 3 hard weeks, and then we would take a week off. Now, what I learned from Dick was something I never thought of. So you do 3 hard weeks, a week off, and the day you come back, you kind of go for it in the gym. Now, a lot of us will be a little hesitant at first, but what we started to notice is that on that day back, so week 1, lot of volume, long days. Week 2, half the volume, long days. Week 3, kind of a peaky-ish kind of thing. Week 4, The best thing we ever did was nothing. A lot of the athletes wanted to bodybuild that week, and, but they didn't get what was cool. They didn't get the boon from the week back, that first day back where you go for it. Weirdest thing is that it really worked. Now, the program, my best program that exemplifies this would be the 1 lift a day program. Week 1 is 7 sets of 5, 1 lift a day. So power snatch Monday, jerks Tuesday, Wednesday squat, Thursday off, Friday clean, Saturday a light total. That's kind of what we did, kind of, sort of. 7 sets of 5. Well, and okay, week 2, 6 sets of 3, half the volume. Week 3, a set of 5, add weight, a set of 3, and then a heavy double. Again, half the volume. So 35, 18, 10. It doesn't work out perfectly to half, but just go with me. And then week 4, we would do nothing. And then when we came back, very often we would chase a big lift on Monday. It threw the program off a little bit, but it's okay. And people would just get what you're talking about here, Joe, that bizarre slingshot. They would look bigger, they would lift bigger, they felt great. I'm a big fan of this. Paul Northway, great athlete of mine. We tried this idea of doing eccentric on this program, so that's going just negatives. So on the 7 sets of 5 day, at the time, he could squat 405. Pretty good for a 16, 17-year-old. And so we put 405 on the bar and had him go down for a set of 5 with 3 spotters. And by the time he got to the 5th rep, he was, let's say, dropping. He was flying. And then after that set of 5, you would step back and you do 10 vertical jumps. It was a hard program. It doesn't look it, but it was hard. Well, on the last set, he couldn't squat 135. And to his credit, he came to school the next day, which no other athlete has ever done before or since doing a workout like that. So hats off to you, Paul. When you train that hard week 1, you go even heavier week 2, you even go heavier week 3. The deload lets everything get back. And I think the number one thing it gets back, as you noted, Joe, is all that stuff between your ears. You come back refreshed, you come back happy, and you come back ready to go. So I'm a big fan, Joe. Okay, thank you. So do I like deloads? Yes. And remember this. If you think that you're going to have nothing but up, linear periodization all your life, well, first off, good luck believing that. But what's going to slow you down is the flu, colds, surgeries, something else. If you don't take deloads, life is going to give you deloads. All right, thanks. Got a question from Gary. Gary says this: I have recently joined a new gym, which has given me access to a trap bar for the first time. I've been using it to deadlift as part of Easy Strength for Fat Loss. Great program. And I'm finding it far easier on my lower back, which is prone to injury, than straight bar deadlifts. You know, Gary, if you don't mind me commenting, this has been something I've been hearing more and more. I think it's the way we teach people the deadlift, teach people getting the weight off the floor. We're not good at it. We don't teach the basics well. And I think a lot of people pay high prices long term. I've heard you say in your podcast several times, says Gary, that trap bar deadlifts are valuable when done correctly. And I stand by that. But they are seldom done correctly. However, I've never heard you explain what you mean by done properly. Man, a lot of pressure put on me, Gary. I would be grateful if you could pass on any form tips, cues, etc. that could help ensure I am getting the most out of this exercise. Yeah, let's break it up. I have 3 cues I want you to think about, and then I have a concept. First concept, I think, especially when you want to spare your lower back, I think when you do trap bar deadlifts, don't do the thunder and shudder method, lightning and thunder. You do the first deadlift, and then people just free fall, let that weight hit the ground. The bar's bouncing up off the floor. They grab it and they shimmy it back up and drop it again. I think with the trap bar, your reps should be done a soft touch and go method. So as you're descending, you hinge, You do that reverse leg press, you touch, leg press, hinge it back up. It's a little smoother than that, obviously, but it's touch and go, not ba-boom, slam and go. Control, touch, and go. Not only does it save the equipment, I have a gym, that's very important to me, but I think it also saves your joints and limbs. True, Fred Hatfield thought that bouncing deadlifts would build up connective tissue, but I don't know if that's true. John Jesse discussed that in his books. Most famous is Wrestling Conditioning Encyclopedia. But boy, for most people I know, it doesn't build your connective tissue. It hurts your connective tissue. So I do have 3 cues. The first cue, and I don't care how you get there, but some people call it spread the chest. I like the Olympic lifting idea of trying to, this is a penciler finger, and you're trying to break that penciler finger by squeezing your lats into your traps. Okay. Think Sandlot when the lifeguard walks by and all the boys go like this. You must be in that big chest, Mr. Universe position, boys at the beach position. You got to have the shoulders back locked up. When I bring my triceps onto my lats, my spinal erectors lock up and have a good position. So that's cue number 1. Spread the chest, lock it down, hold that the entire time. Number 2, I like the chin to be forward as you begin the trap bar deadlift and then have it come to neutral and forward. Now this has become because I coach American football and I work with special forces, and it's really important that you don't do this. Now I know a lot of people teach that. I don't think they're right. And as one strength coach told me one time, I am not going to get one of my Division I athletes injured because some idiot online thinks having your head down is a good idea when you make a tackle. You could also destroy the kid's career. When I was in high school, a boy close to us died in a high school football game. He put his head down on the tackle and broke his neck. So I like the head up because I still think that's the best carryover to life. If you're looking down all the time, you're not going to see what's going on out there. Third point is a very simple point, but when I teach Olympic lifting, I teach from the heels method, where you drive your heels into the ground, you drive your heels into the ground, okay? And then, but the idea is this, so I'm driving my heels, deep into the earth. My toes are relaxed as I start, but don't worry, once the weight engages, I'm going to go full foot on the ground, and but if your toes are heavy, there is a chance the bar will go forward. I see it in Olympic lift meets a lot. When I snatched 142.5 kilos, which is 314 pounds, when I stood up, I had to run forward because I caught the weight forward. The film at the time wasn't very good, but I could sense that I was forward from the beginning because I was trying so hard to make the lift. And sometimes under pressure, you resort to other sports. So I would say strongly that the first part of the movement on the trap bar deadlift is think mentally of a leg press. I'm not a huge fan of the leg press machine, but in this case, I don't think it's a bad idea. So as I start the lift, spread the chest, chin forward, and then I'm going to do a leg press to clear the bar off the floor. I don't have to worry about the transition for the knees because there's nothing there. And then I'm just going to leg press, hinge, and stay tall. So first general point, I like touch and go. From there, spread the chest, Mr. Universe, whatever it is. 2, I like that subtle chin forward to neutral as you come up. Leg press, heels deep into the earth, whatever the concept is, but leg press into a hinge. I hope that helps. It's a good question. Thank you. Alfonso asks a question. He says this: if my fitness goals were to get stronger at pull-ups, bigger pecs, shoulders, and a decent cardiovascular conditioning, ... I think that's called an ellipse. What would be a better approach? A bunch of circuits consisting of 3 to 5 pull-ups, 8 to 10 dips, and 20 plus swings, or to separate those exercises into separate workouts? Well, whenever you want a combination, and the nice thing is you only have 3 things you're doing, I would say the circuit train style. I'm sure that if you went into the gym and you just said, I'm going to do a bunch of pull-ups, then I'm going to do a bunch of dips, and then I'm going to do a bunch of swings, it would be a good workout. But I think it would miss your cardiovascular conditioning. So I was spitballing the numbers a little bit for you. So I don't know how many pull-ups you can do, but you gave me this range. But at first, I would emphasize this. In this circuit we're going to give you, I would say do 3 pull-ups. So we're going to do lower end on everything. I want you to then hop over if you can, or in my gym, you just switch sides to the dip, and you do 8, even though less would be fine too, 5 dips. So we're going to say 3 pull-ups, 5 dips, and let's just stick with 20 swings. So 3 pull-ups, 5 dips, 20 swings. You know, if you do 10 rounds of that, that's 30 pull-ups. That's 50 dips, and that's 200 swings. That's a pretty good workout. What I would suggest is this, is have a watch or a wall clock with a sweeping second hand. For those who don't know what a watch is, this is a watch. You put it on your wrist like this. Don't use it when you do kettlebell snatches. And the idea is this. If you finish that set at 12, rest 30 seconds before you repeat it, so when it hits 6. If you finish at 1, you start at the 7. So I would suggest a tight 30-second rest in between each one of those. I know you're going to want to go faster, but I think what's going to happen then, I'd rather you do 20 rounds of the 3 exercises back to back to back with the 3 pull-ups, the 5 dips, and the 20 swings. And that's going to be hard. That's going to be a hard workout. I'd rather you do more rounds than more individual reps, because you're chasing the cardiovascular. The other thing you're also doing, without even thinking about it, you're also greasing the groove. So if you do 20 rounds of dips, now 5, that's 100 dips with probably the last 12 sets at some level of fatigue, just from because it used to be called metabolic conditioning, and that phrase got stolen by the high intensity and the CrossFitters. But the idea of metabolic conditioning originally meant that you were fairly fresh. This muscle group was fairly fresh, but the entire system is so tired you can't get a high number of reps. I like this. I like this a lot. One other thing I'm going to tell you about, though, it's a pretty simple idea, but I would have some kind of measuring device for your total sets. You're looking at 2 things at once. You'll be looking at a clock, the second hand, but you're also going to be counting sets. So the method I usually use is I just use these index cards, and you can do something as simple as this, is get a stack of them, right, 1, 2. What I also do, because I don't have, they're in the gym right now, but when I'm doing Dave Turner's 8 sets of 2, it says right here, snatch, and then I write snatch, and I write 8 times 2, and then down in the corner here, I write 1. And then on the back, I put a little quote. I have quotes from Tommy Kono, Arnold, some others too, people that, but the idea is this. I flip the card, I read the quote, and I will remember if I have or had not read the quote. So if I do get compromised and I forget where I'm at, I come right back here and I know usually exactly what set I'm on. It's not a huge thing. So equipment needs you're going to have is a pull-up station. The one I have also has dips and a single kettlebell, and then some pieces of paper and a clock. And I think, Alfonso, if you take this serious, this is going to be a really good training program. I would take all of it seriously. I would take time, making the cards, the little index cards, or however you figure out how you want to do it. Make them nice. Make it something that inspires you. Get your brain excited. And I think you'll find this to be a pretty good little workout. Thank you. It's good. John asked a question, And the answer on this isn't probably what John wants, but I want you all to listen to this. Dan, I'm 57 in decent shape. I run 20 to 30 miles a week, which is a lot, fair amount of volume for a runner. I mean, 20, 30 miles a week of high quality, you could be world class. Mostly easy, zone 2 with some tempo work. Good job. Lift 3 days a week, and he does a full body split. He does squats, bench press, military press, and deadlift. My issue is my weight and waistline. So you're lifting 3 days a week, you're running 30 miles a week, and you have a waistline issue. I instantly stop and I turn and I say, John, you don't have an exercise problem. You have a recovery, a sleep, or a nutrition issue. Let's keep reading. My issue is with weight and waistline. I am 6 feet at 215 with a 40-inch waist, which is probably better than 95% of the people you know. While I'm in good health, my doctor would prefer my waist measurement to be 36, and I agree wholeheartedly. Personally, I'd like to be under 200 pounds to help my running performance. I cover a lot of miles during the week, and my weight training consists of linear progression workouts. Then he says, that is until I have to start over again and again, because linear periodization, I don't think ever works. Linear progression never works. I'm always starving after running and or weight training. At my age and a goal of being 20 pounds lighter, should I go hard on weight loss through diet, cardio, and maintenance weight training? Diets, let's keep answering. In the past, I've always trained hard and ate until satiated. This isn't working for me anymore, but I feel like a lazy bum when I come back on my workouts. And if I diet hard, I have no energy to work out. Any advice you can give would be greatly appreciated. I think you're very close to the answer, but you'll notice on this, on your answers here, not once did you say anything about your stress level. You didn't talk about sleep. So a couple things. I'm going to recommend to you that you at least read Easy Strength for Fat Loss, available at danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. And because the last thing you need is a hard diet at 30 miles of running a week. How many ends of this candle do you want to burn? I mean, you're lifting, which lights one end of the candle. You're running 30 miles a week, which is, another end of the candle. And now we're taking a blowtorch because you want to go on a diet. I'm going to melt down the middle part of the candle. This candle ain't going to last long. So the first thing, especially at your age, let me double check that age. 57. John is 57. At your age, sleep becomes drug-like in its impact. I'd like to see you sleep 9 hours a night. And guess what? First thing there, I guarantee you push back against that. Guarantee it. Nobody has time to sleep 9 hours a night. Well, I figure out ways to do it. First off, and I watch TV. I watch, I have BritBox, and so I watch Perot and I watch Agatha Christie. I love those shows. I like murder mysteries. I like Only Murderers in the Building. Love How I Met Your Mother. I love The Office. I'm not a lunatic. I do buy them so I can watch them anytime, and I try to be, kind of nudging towards bed at about 8 o'clock. Doesn't mean I go to bed at 8 o'clock, but I start to wind down like a dog, spinning around before it lays down. I try to take my nighttime supplements early. I write my to-do list early. And then I wake up naturally lately it's been exactly 5:42 every time lately, but usually 5:30 to 6 I'm up because I went to bed at 9 and I am completely refreshed. Didn't hear any of that from you. As for nutrition, you've got to eat. I would recommend, if possible, I would love to see you do the template. How you work it in, I don't know, but if you could get a good night's sleep, wake up, down some coffee, and either get your lift workout in, and if you're splitting those 4 exercises, that's going to be pretty easy to do, and then either go for a walk or run every day after that. And then when you get back, shower, get prettied up, and then your first meal should be heavy in protein, heavy in vegetables, and drink a lot of water. You can't, if this is your goal, you can't afford to be drinking calories. I like to drink calories. My favorite liquid calories are beer and wine, but they don't like me, man. Make me fat and bloated and ugly. So one of the things I'd like you to think about is changing your mentality about recovery, sleep, and your approach to nutrition. I know this wasn't $1 million answer, but it's true. And sometimes that isn't as sexy as, a whole bunch of nonsense linked together. Thank you. Great question. Easy strength for fat loss. danjohnuniversity.com/bookstore. Thank you. Devin asks, I was just curious if you read the book Outlive by Peter Attia. A lot of this stuff he writes about seems to coincide with a lot of stuff you talk about on the podcast. There's a good reason some of it does. So he quotes Michael Easter in the book. So Peter Attia quotes Michael Easter. Michael Easter has written a number of books. He's a great writer. He used to be my editor at Men's Health. And he's visited my house many times. I know he's been at least 2 of my workshops or more when I've talked about things like loaded carries and some of the other stuff that you see in this book. So essentially, even though I'm not quoted in this book, maybe I am. So the parts that sound like me in the book, it makes sense because it should. Michael has quoted me in the past quite a bit, and I appreciate that, Michael. Thank you very much. So I just want to get your thoughts, and then this last question: did you ever consider the use of a continuous glucose monitor? Okay, my favorite parts of the book is the last chapter on his emotional health. I thought that was really good. One of the overriding things you find out when you read the book, if you're exercising, if you're exercising, don't buy this book. If you're not exercising, buy this book, because this book will tell you to go exercise. I just saved you $22 in the United States and $42 to our friends up north in Canada. It's interesting because his co-author is Bill Gifford, and I think a better longevity book is Bill's book called Spring Chicken. And I have recommended Spring Chicken on this podcast dozens of times. Heck, I probably quote Spring Chicken as much as I quote Dick Nottmeyer, Tommy Kono, and some of the others. So thank you. Spring Chicken is really good. Your specific question was interesting about the glucose monitor because one of my athletes I worked with in the late 80s had what we used to call childhood diabetes, but now it's called type 1, I think. And so he sat me down with all of his nutritional information from his doctor and the American Diabetes Association. And he went through all this stuff. So this is the late 1980s when I was young and good looking. What's fascinating is these chapters in Outlive that talks about the value, the lessons of continuous glucose monitoring is information every single one of our listeners from the podcast probably already knows without having to walk around with a huge piece of plastic on the back of their tricep. Not all carbs are created equal. In this day and age, I guess there's still people who don't know that. But if you're eating potato chips, 2 bags of potato chips, you're going to be hungry in half an hour. If you eat the same amount of calories in hard-boiled eggs, you won't be hungry in half an hour. Or liver, you won't be hungry. Or butter, you won't be hungry. So all carbs are not created equal. Butter is probably a bad example there, but you get the point. Number 2, rice and oatmeal are surprisingly glycemic. The glycemic index, one of the first books I ever read on life extension by Dirk Pearson, maybe, he talked about the glycemic index, and oatmeal is high, but how do you make oatmeal less high on the glycemic index? First, buy more original like steel cut or just make the rawest form of oatmeal. Do what I do, add protein to it. Do what I do, add seeds to it. Do what most people do, add cinnamon. Now, it's probably not enough cinnamon to really blunt your glucose rise, but it still works and it tastes good. Yeah, I mean, I remember when bodybuilders would tell me all they eat was chicken, broccoli, and chicken breast. I used to, chicken, broccoli, and white rice. I used to always think, how are you guys controlling your blood sugar? But this is 1980s I-rays and stuff. There's nothing new about that. Number 3, he talks about fructose, but we're not going to worry about that. 4, timing, duration, and intensity of exercise are really important. He mentions that your glucose can rise after weightlifting, but aerobic exercise kind of takes care of that. If you read Easy Strength for Fat Loss, what do you read? You lift weights and then you go for a walk. You lift weights and you go for a swim. You lift weights and you go for a heavy hands, a ruck, a run, whatever. Yeah, we know that. I've always used the concept of Pac-Man, you know. Rusty Moore talks about the free fatty acids are freed up. I'm fine with that. Attia talks about the glucose being freed up. I'm fine with that. Lifting frees them up. And then like little Pac-Man, which also gets us back to the 80s, they get eaten up during your aerobic. And by the way, your aerobic doesn't have to be very high. I use Phil Maffetone's numbers a lot, and that works just great. The next point here, a good night's sleep is better for your blood profiles when it comes to glucose. Yeah. One of the first things I try to get people to do on a fat loss experiment or experience is teach them the value of meditation and sleep, because while you're asleep, well, like I always joke, we know generally you don't eat while you're asleep. And also too, it sets your body up to be a much better eater of glucose and free fatty acids. Stress, cortisol, and all the rest, big impact. Right, we know that. We just said that. Non-starchy vegetables have no impact. I put spinach in everything. I'm a big fan of spinach. I like, by the way, surprisingly, kale, especially if you can use some citric, like orange, lemon, whatever, with it. It's amazing. He mentions broccoli too. Shove all you want down your mouth. Again, nothing new. Foods high in protein are a mixed bag. He noticed that if it's high in protein and fat, it seems to be better. And that's why many bodybuilders through the years have lucked into figuring out that eggs are a wonderful bodybuilding device for leaning out. Just pure chicken breast, as he says, isn't as effective at keeping your glucose under control. The most important thing he says, and this is on that page 330 in the book, is stacking all these ideas. So let's stack them for you. And I'll call this book Easy Strength for Fat Loss. Sleep, wake up and meditate, fast, lift weights, go for a walk, eat veggies and protein, and drink a lot of water. The final point is the point I liked the most. He said that simply tracking things seemed to make him more aware of things. And I think that's why those continuous glucose things are so good. If you're not like, this is my journal. I spend a lot of time in my journal. You can see all the little side notes and all the nonsense in there. One of the things that really helps when you have a journal of any kind is that you're monitoring some things, and that by itself might be the key. So yeah, did I like the book? Okay, Ebert.com just reviewed the new My Big Fat Greek Wedding movie, the third edition. And it was a very, very complimentary review. And I liked it because of that. It was like this, and there should have been more sequels. These people, it's just fun. The cinematography is fantastic. And then I gave him a 1.5 out of 4 stars. And that's how I feel about this book. I really like the book, but I don't know if I can recommend it. Some of the science, some of the reading is dense and hard and not fun. And when you get done with the book, I'm going to tell you what to do. It's going to tell you to sleep, eat protein and vegetables, exercise, try fasting, go for a long walk. There's nothing new there. There are some nice things. And again, the chapter on his emotional health is a fabulous read. So do I recommend the book? Well, I'm going to give it 1.5 out of 4 stars, even though I think it's a good book and I liked it a lot. It's not a mixed review. Not everything I read is great for everybody. I've got some discus throwing books back there that I think are marvelous and it bore the pants off most of my readership. So thank you. All right, we'll move on. Finally, our last question today. Konstantinos, which is perfect because I just talked about my big fat Greek wedding. Konstantinos asked the question. What is your opinion on one-hand barbell press? Yeah, it shows up a lot. If you've ever done it, there is an issue of how you get it up on the shoulder. The method that you clean it is more work to me than it. Pat Flynn has a good phrase he uses a lot, and I don't. It's a cost-benefit ratio. It's all the it's a lot of work. It might look impressive if someone's in a gym pressing, impressive pressing. 65 pounds with the Olympic bar, but the guy over there pressing, 120 with a dumbbell, that's more weight. And to me, that's more impressive. It does slide into the Turkish get-up. Otto Arco, who was the model for Rodin or Rodin, depending on where you are this week, the thinker, he was a model for a lot of his work. Otto trained with just a straight old school barbell and did Turkish get-ups and got great value. Well before I was born, there was an exercise called the bent press. It used to be the standard of strength, but frankly, there's like 8 people in the world who care about it, and I'm not one of them. You can do windmills with that barbell overhead. You can certainly do the single arm press. In Pavel's book, Power of the People, he talks about it a lot. Of course, I told Pavel if it had been the bench press and a deadlift variation, there'd never been another strength book ever. But since you had the side press in there, it left the window open for the rest of us to talk about our nonsense. My opinion on it, if you like it, do it. But I'm not gonna. You're not gonna see people in my gym doing it. Okay, you're not gonna see my athletes doing it. It's too much. It's too much work for what you get out of it. Okay, thanks. Good. It's a good question. Thank you. Well, there you go. That was fun. I enjoyed that. I like it when I talk about books that I have and things like that. Remember, if you have a question, send it to podcast@danjohnuniversity.com. I'll do my best to answer each and every one. And until next time, let's all keep on lifting and learning. Thank you.